Hold on. All right, we are back live on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. How is everybody doing this evening? I figured get on here, see what we got going. What the deal is. There is a lot that has changed in college football this week. It is one of those deals, I will say. Getting that done. Sorry, I'm just retweeting some links here. Getting this all done. We are also going to open the phone lines for a little bit. We're watching some of the Miami, Louisville. But that is just something that we have that we got going. Just figured I would hop on, see what we got for this evening. Hold on, I am clearing some things here. Just getting some of that stuff in. Some of the stuff is kind of going to be old news, but this is the first time for us covering it this week. If you can do me the biggest favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Also, if you're off of watching on Twitter, come on over to YouTube or Twitter, formerly known as X. Yeah, I'm just getting some stuff done on the fly here. Been out most of the week, so some of this stuff is going to be a little outdated. That's just kind of what it is. But also we got playoff baseball on. Miami down early, 14-0. Let me fix my visuals here. That's what happens whenever you get some stuff going. But yeah, so there is that. Just interested to hear what you guys think. Miami is on the goal line right now. Also, the phone lines are open. The number to call, 260-255-4069, is the number to call. If you want to get your call in. But without further ado, the weekend that was last weekend. These are the matchups. I think Miami on the board. We also took the over in this game as well. But Oregon, Oklahoma, Missouri, Michigan, Illinois, Iowa State, Florida State all bite the dust this week. That is something that I find fascinating. A lot of people doubted Indiana. I think that going forward, I don't know how the Indiana hate at some point's got to stop. Trying to get my other laptop to fire up here. See if I can get that to work. Seeing what we got going, but also the phone lines are open. If you want to get your call in now. What are we doing here? Just trying to get this. There we go. I think it's starting to fire up now, but what else do we got? There we go. Here it is. This weekend's games, the package of games for this weekend. Like I said, Miami, Louisville on right now. Duke, Georgia Tech this weekend. Texas Tech, Arizona State, BYU, Utah, the Holy War, USC, Notre Dame, Alabama, Tennessee, Michigan, Washington, and LSU, Vanderbilt. And then you have Oklahoma, South Carolina. This is just my thoughts on it. I think the South Carolina Shane Beamer thing is done, to be completely honest. I think he's going to go to. I think he's heading back to. I think he's going to go to Blacksburg. I think he's going to Virginia Tech. I just don't find it. I don't find that South Carolina and everything is. I'm not saying that they're pushing him out, but I think that they're wanting a higher expectation when it comes to Beamer. I think that it's one of those things that it'll help Beamer going forward realistically. Because he gets a fresh start. South Carolina gets out of the buyout. They get to go hire somebody new. I think he kind of hit his ceiling at South Carolina, to be honest, but that's just kind of where I'm at on the South Carolina deal. All right. Appreciate you, Doreen. But yeah, I think appreciate it, Posh. I just think the South Carolina thing is over. I think that they're gonna happily. I think it'll be mutual. I think they'll mutually part ways. I think that's probably the best bet for all parties involved, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know where the bottom is going to fall out. When it comes to the coaching carousel, I mean, we can get into the Penn State thing. Me personally, I don't foresee Matt Rule leaving Nebraska, but here are the top candidates. Jerry Neuheisel, I'm not buying that. Signetti just got a huge extension. But also, I don't think Kenny Dillingham's leaving Arizona State because he wants to be there unless they back up the Brinks truck for 10, 11 million. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think he's motivated by financial reasons. Now, the one candidate, I think that if they could get it through the boosters, I think Pat Fitzgerald's a for real candidate. I think Pat Fitzgerald would fit at Penn State. Kind of got that raw deal by Northwestern. I know some people probably not thinking that, but the way it ended at Northwestern wasn't the greatest. So there's that. I don't think Jerry Neuheisel. I'm not rooting against him, but I think he probably needs to be a coordinator a little bit longer. Just in my opinion. But Alex Golish, I think, is a real candidate. I think Matt Rule, if I had to pick 3 candidates from this list, I would probably throw Golish, Pat Fitzgerald, and Matt Rule in there. I think it's Rules to turn down. I think Penn State's swinging big at Matt Rule, but I think Nebraska has a big enough fan base. I think they will go out and raise the money to keep Matt Rule there in Nebraska. I mean, I think they're relatively pleased with how everything has gone. I don't see if you're on Matt Rule's side of things. It's a good day to be Matt Rule, but it broke earlier. Ole Miss Spirit put it out that they're in talks with Kiffin about a contract extension. I don't think he got that. He might have on that one. But they're marking him short. But yeah, that's that. I don't know if you're Matt Rule, do you want to jump into potentially a pressure cooker where you're expected playoffs or bust right away, and that you have a transfer portal window, even though it's going to end, but there's some people and there's some kids that signed up not to play for not Pat Fitzgerald, but Matt Rule. Some people didn't sign up to play for him, and I totally get it. I wouldn't be shocked if you don't start seeing opt-outs, if you don't start seeing some of the other things that go along with firing the coach mid-season. And also, it is tamper season with Penn State. I mean, you've seen what happened to Virginia Tech's recruiting class. You've seen Richie was going to join tonight, but he had having some internet issues. But I look at it and I think that if you're in Matt Rule's position, I don't think you'd leave to go to Penn State. I think realistically, the best thing for Penn State is to get a clean break and completely restart. But also when it comes to the James Franklin stuff, here is what it is, $50 million. He's still $27 million behind Jimbo Fisher. As far as things go there, it's kind of, no matter how you cut it, there is no easy way around it. That is a real dollar amount in this rev share era, to be honest with everybody. It's a real dollar amount that Penn State they've got to come up with real money and at a real time. I don't think that breaking it down and he's got to look for a new job, but at the end of the day, James Franklin's kind of got you because he can go coach high school football and be totally fine. So there's that on that end of it. Also, I think this is the graphic with the buyouts. So if Georgia wants to move on from Kirby, it's $118 million. Lincoln Riley is sitting at 90, DeBoer 70, Sark 64, Norvell 63, Brian Kelly 62, Cristobal 61, Dabo 60. Franklin was number 9. And I think I got a cutoff on who was 10. Yeah. To get Matt Rule's buyout is $56.28 million. So there's that. I don't know what else you're going to do. I don't think you're in a position to negotiate with this. I look at it and I think, well, what's the best and worst case scenario? I don't think there is a best case scenario on getting Matt Rule. I really don't. I think that what it comes down to, I don't think that they're going to be able to swing that money. Penn State, it would cost them close to, I believe it would be $100 million just to get. You got to pay Franklin, and that's just like on the Billy Napier stuff. Okay, fine, you want to get rid of Billy, but here's the catch. You got to pay Billy. Upon firing Billy, you have to pay him, I believe, like 10.5 is due within 30 days after him being fired. So there's that. I don't think these schools are realistically looking at this buyout language and looking at this stuff. You're having savvy agents negotiate with guys who are not agents. And here's Franklin's numbers. 1-15 against top 5 teams, 4-21 against top 10 teams, 15-30 against teams in the top 25. 4-19. I don't think the top 5 or top 10 number really was the be all end all for Penn State. I think the number that got him removed was the Ohio State Michigan number, because those have been the two teams for all intents and purposes that have stood in James Franklin's way the entire time of his tenure at Penn State. It's kind of what it is. I don't think that they necessarily really thought it through. I think they made kind of an emotional decision that they thought that we'll just fire him and we'll be done with it. Okay, now that you fired him, who are you going to get? Because I think that coming down to brass tacks, I think if you don't get Matt Rule, you've overshot your skis, because now you're going to have to settle for somebody that you necessarily didn't want. Signetti's not coming. No Signetti. You're going to have to either go through the group of 5 or find somebody's coordinator that wants to come on over and be the head coach. But also, we're about 20 minutes in. I think I'll leave this stream up while we're watching the Miami game. But if you want to get your call in, the phone lines are open. Give us a call at 260-255-4069 is the number to call. We're talking James Franklin. We're talking Billy Napier. I believe Lane Kiffin is on the verge of getting an extension. So if Kiffin gets an extension, Florida, you're out. I would say it's probably going to be in the ballpark of what Signetti got. To be honest, I would say Lane's going to be pushing probably almost $12 million a year. I believe he's something ridiculous, like 27-5 in his last like 33 or something like that. And I think that where it stands now, I think that what they'll do is if Lane wins on Saturday, I think they'll sign the contract. Oh, what's up, Joe? Sorry, it's been a rough week for everybody on the show here when you're a one-man band and sick a little bit, and that, and then internet issues and all kinds of fun stuff. So that's kind of how it's been going for us over here. But we're going to be live Saturday, all 3 time windows. Depending on what it is, I think I'll open the phone lines in the second half of the live streams on Saturdays. We'll be talking everything college football, but also hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy this content. It helps us. It's better than money. It helps the channel grow. and helps us get our videos out there or our lives out there. Um, so with that being said, I think that Penn State over drastically played their hand. Got a call coming in. Hey, caller, who do we have?
Joe Seppi.
Hey, what's up, Joe?
How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Are you looking forward to this weekend's sports football, college football?
Actually, yes, because I think this weekend we're going to get a clearer picture of what the college football playoff looks like.
I think you're right. You're right on it. This is really the week that's going to differentiate. I think. Now there might be an upset or two, down the road that'll have an impact, and most certainly it will. But this will be the defining weekend of really solidifying your positions. I think.
Yeah, I also think that there's going to be teams that separate. As I'm looking through the slate here.
Yeah, read them out because I don't.
You don't
I'm
have
not
it in
at
front
the.
of you.
I don't have it in front. Yeah.
I
What
think
you like? What the games you like to see that you're going to do? I'm taping probably about 10 games, 11 games.
we got. I'm going to be streaming this one live. Louisville, or not Louisville, but LSU Vanderbilt. I think that is
Great, great game. Yeah,
kind of a pseudo elimination game.
yeah.
Um, Georgia Tech is also in action at noon.
Duke, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep. They got Duke, and which is very, very fascinating with that because the
absolutely.
um on the Duke game, Duke is still a favorite, and everybody and their brother is betting Georgia Tech. But there's some questions around: is Haynes King 100% healthy? And I get that.
I know he really exhausts his body every weekend. Like
Right.
he does whatever it takes, and that if you're talking about like a potentially 16 game season, he'll never survive it.
I think that they run the quarterback a tremendous amount at Georgia Tech, but
Yeah,
also with the way their offense is set up, I think that's just kind of one of those that because he's not a great thrower of the football, so I think that that's just kind of the way Georgia Tech's going to play it out. And I don't think Haynes King is going to be like an NFL starter. I think he's given it everything he's got in college. He'll probably get a
yeah.
camp invite. He might get drafted, maybe, but
I think he'll get drafted just because he's got that in him to be able to get like a fourth and short kind of a running quarterback kind of thing. But you're right. That is more towards the college level, being able to do that than the pro level.
right. And I'm just going down the slate here. I
Go
think
ahead.
Oklahoma at South Carolina. I think this is for the South Carolina fans. I think that this is they had a lot of hype in the offseason and they didn't have quite the start through the first 6 games that they thought. They're 3-3.
The schedule is no doubt about it. I mean, them in Arkansas, I don't see how people can go hard on them because it's a brutal schedule. I
and
mean, you just have to
and I think
admit
that
it, right?
yeah, I think that one of the things that happened with Arkansas and South Carolina, I think Arkansas messed up their NIL stuff. I don't think from some of the stuff that has been put out there, I don't think they committed the resources that they wanted to or didn't want to commit them to Sam Pittman. And then I think the South Carolina thing is that they just don't have the money.
Yeah.
And
And that's what's you're gonna see that happen now. It's gonna be the teams that are able to support in a big way, like to be a big player in the game now. You have to have money. I mean, that's just what it. When you're paying players now, and your budget is like 2.4 million or something to pay them, that doesn't even take into account the NIL. So these kids are now professionals,
Well,
so
I,
they're gonna want to win, and they're gonna, just like they always have. They've moved to other, but now it's like it's more wide open than NFL free agency.
right. And I think going down to the one transfer portal window will fix that. But I think
Somewhat, yeah.
more importantly, I think that this will be South Carolina's like demarcation line. I think it'll finally set into the fans that hey, he's probably not coming back and he's going to Virginia Tech.
Yeah, right. Virginia Tech just gave themselves like a $29 million boost to their football athletics. Yeah.
So I think that Virginia Tech will be able to raise the money. I think that's what um
Well,
because
look
he's
at
got the
Texas Tech.
name.
I
His
mean,
dad was the
look at
coach
Texas
there.
Tech.
And I
Look at what Texas Tech's able to do now. Like, they're a big time player now because they have unlimited resources. Theoretically, anyway.
yeah, well, they got that Cody Campbell. The guy
Mm-hmm.
that's running those Protect Sports ads, that's their big money guy at Texas Tech. He sold his company for like 4 billion or something, some oil and gas deal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very fascinating to say the
Well,
least.
it's a bummer. It's a bummer, Duke, because you take a look at teams like Nike, Oregon, and it's now this private sector is moving into college football because they're willing to take the risk for the power and the payoff later. Like, that's what's happening in the Big Ten with this idea that this private company is going to pay each team 2.4 billion, and then be able to have more say so in everything about the conference. Like, they're going to be the ones calling the shot,
And
and that's, yeah.
in my opinion, I don't think that the Big Ten. This is just my opinion. I haven't really dug a whole bunch into it. I don't think that they should let private equity into. They shouldn't let
Yeah, but
private equity
what's
into the
gonna stop them? The
conference.
NCAA? What's gonna stop them? The NCAA?
No, the NCAA ain't going to stop them, but I think Ohio State and Michigan are looking at this, and I think Penn State too are looking at this saying, we are the ones that are carrying the water for the conference. Why should
Right.
these other schools that are our essential competitors, why should they take capital injections? Because private equity doesn't loan money without points on it,
Right.
And
And it's not a loan anyway, though. It's just like, we're going to give you this. In return, we get to say this and this and this is how the conference is going to be conducted.
and the other thing too is that for as much as I know about business, people don't loan money just to loan it without wanting something. But also, you don't show the lamb the knife before you slaughter it either. So,
Yeah, it's risk. It's like business is all about risk and reward.
mm-hmm. And
So they're willing to take the risk early by making, because they have the money.
yes,
and and so they just do it. They're willing to write off stuff in the beginning, but eventually it's going to come back to them where they're going to get a piece of everything back, which is advertising and NIL and or control of the same.
oh, oh yeah, because when private equity gets involved into anything, they make as much money as possible and they scrap parts that don't
Yeah,
make money. So that's not good for an athletic budget because
it's not good for our sport. Like, if we love college football, like, it's my favorite sport, that and hockey. But even if I had to come down to it, I'd probably go with, well, at this point, I would go with college football because I like Notre Dame and I like the New York Rangers, and the Rangers suck. So it's like I'm more, my favorite sport now more is college football. So,
wow. Hey, you guys got Mike Sullivan. It should work.
well, he's good, but I don't know. I hope he's as good as, he had the best player in the game for, as long as he was the coach there. So,
Wow.
that helps a little bit.
Yeah, that Crosby guy, he was pretty good, but but as I move down the slate here, Ohio State, Wisconsin,
I'm not taping that one. I'm not even.
I
That's going to be a blowout.
I think it's going to be a slaughter. I think if they get absolutely blown out, I know some of the Buckeye fans out there aren't going to like me saying this, but why have they not fired Fickle yet? It hasn't worked.
No, he must have a pretty good buyout too. I guess because they're not really one of those schools that can compete financially, right? So they might just hang on to him just because that's all they could get. Like look what Signetti. He just signed a $93 million contract and some kind of a crazy buyout.
Oh yeah, Signetti's not leaving. He's not leaving Indiana, and that was back to my point whenever it came down to the folks that were floating names out there for guys possibly getting jobs. Was they were throwing Matt Rule out there, they were throwing Signetti out there, they were throwing all these names out there, and the only thing you're going to do is you're getting them a raise. That's all you're doing.
Right.
And which it's kind of interesting because
well, you know what I heard? Did you hear this? And I don't know if it's true at all because it's internet propaganda, but they said that Urban Meyer made a call to Penn State. Did you hear that?
I had seen some stuff about that. Now, what do I think Urban Meyer is doing, meddling in the Penn State coaching search? And me and Carter have talked about this a little bit, but I think that he's floating Dan Mullen.
Oh, he doesn't want to do it himself.
No,
he's not inquiring for himself.
If Urban came
weird,
back to if Urban came back to coaching, it would have to be if Shelley okayed it. And I think he's perfectly happy being gone a couple days a week. He gets to do Big Noon, no stress, no nothing.
Hell yeah.
And he gets to just talk about it. He works like 3 hours, and he's not dealing with pissed off fans, which the Penn State folks, I get it to a certain extent, if you look at Franklin's record. But here's the thing. You fired him mid-year. The transfer portal opens up for 30 days. You have players decommitting left and right now because they essentially signed up to play for James Franklin. They didn't. Who's the coach? Nobody knows.
Right.
And there was some people in the Penn State beat were floating out there, Bill O'Brien coming back, and it's like, he's not coming back. He was so mad when he left. That's the whole reason why he left. And I think that was one of the things that helped keep Franklin employed at Penn State, because a lot of the big money boosters, when Bill O'Brien took over, he started changing things. Like he put the names on the jerseys. He did a whole bunch of different stuff at Penn State that they didn't like. So what does Franklin do? He comes in, reads the temperature of the room. And I'm not saying this is an indictment or good or bad on James. He was smart for doing it. He read the temperature of the room and says, no, we'll change it back to what Penn State was before. Obviously, they had the whole scandal that went on up there. I mean, I'm not diving into trying to dissect that thing, but I'm just saying that Franklin let people around the program, let some of the big money people go in there and holy crap, Carson Beck threw another pick. But he let the big money people in there have a say. He went back to what Penn State was traditionally, and they loved it, and they loved him for it. They were always ranked in the top 5. But the thing that I think got him fired is he couldn't beat Ohio State or Michigan. His record against Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon is 4-19. I don't think the top 5 thing has anything to do with it. I think that they are looking to upgrade, but I also look at this situation like the chicken or the egg with Bo Pelini. because
What does that mean?
Because when Nebraska fired Bo Pelini, they were 9-3, 10-2 every year, right? Competing for conference championships, never got to that elite level. Well, they fire Bo Pelini, hire Mike Riley from Oregon State. It doesn't go well. Then they bring in Scott Frost. Doesn't go well. Now they're on Matt Rule, but Nebraska has had a track record of being impatient. They fired Frank Solich after going 10-2.
Right.
So it took them a little bit before they got to Bo Pelini. I think if Nebraska was smart, they do everything in their power to keep Matt Rule. But Penn State could end up with a coach that they don't really want. That's not a real good fit.
Right. Exactly.
But
yeah, I also heard about Penn State. One other thing for them before we go down that list. Penn State fans, I heard, are mad at Franklin because he didn't pay enough homage to Jopa. Did you hear that?
I know several people that live in Western PA that are Penn State people, and I necessarily don't talk to them about it because we don't necessarily get along on this topic. But for all the fun that everybody makes fun of Texas A&M, Penn State is also kind of a cult too. Let's keep it real. It's kind of a cult up there. But also,
well, it's a football cult. I mean, they love their football. You can't question that. You know.
Yeah. And
look what Jopa did for them for 40 years.
Right. And whenever I say that, they couldn't always on the recruiting trail, they couldn't compete with the SEC schools, and they couldn't compete with Ohio State. I don't know if you've ever been to Happy Valley, but it ain't no wonder the cows haven't took over the town. It's a cow town. It's in the middle of nowhere, northern Pennsylvania.
Right.
It's a cow town.
Right.
Let's be real. It's
so is South Bend.
Oh, but see, the thing with South Bend is that you can get on the train and you're in Chicago in 2 hours. But
well, Pittsburgh's the Steel City. I mean, they're not too far from Pittsburgh.
I think it's like a 3.5 hour drive from Happy Valley to Pittsburgh. But
yeah, that's not too bad.
But still, when you break it down, would you rather be in Chicago, which is probably the 5th biggest media market, or would you rather be in Pittsburgh? It depends on what you're doing, or you could go to Ohio State where they have, first rounders all over the place.
Yeah.
You're playing with the elite of the elite, and
well, that's also a couch. Like, that's all they have is in that entire state. Everyone looks to Ohio State. Like, that's their god.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they have nothing else, but they have Ohio State.
I mean, but see, that's why I think Fickell was successful at Cincinnati and he wasn't successful at Wisconsin. I mean, the tenure's not over yet. Maybe something will change, but the reason why I say that is because Fickell, as a recruiter, he can sell the city of Cincinnati. He can't sell where's Camp Randall, outside of Appleton, I think. It's hard to sell a mid city and I'm not trying to dump on Wisconsin, but the big thing Wisconsin was
not only that, but it's a bigger playground of football players that come from Cincinnati and Ohio as opposed to Wisconsin.
Right.
It's a bigger pool to choose from.
Right. You could also drive across the bridge, go down to Louisville. There's more opportunity. It's easier to sell a family on Cincinnati than it is Wisconsin.
Right.
Because you're so far away from Milwaukee, but
I agree with that.
I think that's one of the reasons why he struggled is he has nothing to sell them.
Yeah, and they don't have, they're not giving him enough support financially to compete in the Big Ten.
Right.
Like, they used to be good. Like, it used to be them and Iowa in the Western Conference, the Western Division of that Big Ten.
Right.
And that's who it was. I mean, they were not good, but they were always like their side was so weak. I mean, when Penn State joined, obviously they should have gotten into the Western Division, and they wound up putting them in with Michigan and Ohio State, which was stupid.
Well,
I mean,
it was on the people that ran that at that time. They wanted Penn State, because this is back when they were still getting ESPN money before Fox, because they could sell Penn State, Ohio
Michigan.
State once a year.
Yeah.
They could sell Ohio State, Michigan. They could sell Michigan, Penn State, because when Penn State played Ohio State and Michigan, they were always night games. They never played at noon.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I see that logic, and it makes sense. But then again, for the betterment, I think, of the conference, it would have been, and even logistics, it would have, Penn State would have been closer to that Iowa's and Wisconsin's, to be able to play them closer. But I guess now it's all doesn't matter. Like now you have UCLA, Stanford, Cal, and USC all coming to the East Coast to play football every week, or every other week, whatever. So what used to be logistically would have been a good idea, it just doesn't matter now. Like even if Penn State was in that, other than they would get to the conference championship more often to play either Michigan or Ohio State,
Well, think of it this way. Stanford and Cal are a part of the Atlantic Coastal Conference. I'm just throwing it out there. They're part of the Atlantic Coastal Conference when they are staring at the Pacific Ocean. I think that it would have been better if Stanford and Cal would have stuck with Washington State and Oregon State and maybe not try to completely wreck the Mountain West. But then again,
well, they probably would have been able to keep Arizona and Arizona State if they did that, and Utah for that matter. You're right.
Maybe, but I think Utah and Colorado fit better in the Big 12, in my opinion.
Well, they were there, and then Utah left for the Pac-12 to get more recognition, more money, more competition, better recruiting. I mean, they made a pretty, and then they came in and kicked ass on the Pac-12.
Yes, they came in and dominated the Pac-12. Kyle Whittingham's got a hell of a program out there in Provo, but we'll get back to the slate of games. Indiana's they got a Peacock exclusive this week. They're playing Michigan State on the road at Bloomington. They're probably going to get their doors blown off. So,
oh yeah.
and then also at 3:30 on ESPN, Texas A&M's got to go to Fayetteville. They got to play the Hogs. I'm
interested in that. I'm interested to see, because Notre Dame will have played both, and we'll see how, that turns out. Arkansas, unfortunately, is in chaos right now, but they didn't do too badly in the last week's game. Like, they came together better than I thought they would have. So, we'll see what they can do against Texas A&M. But, I'm still not a believer in Miami and Texas A&M being as up there as high as they are. The only reason they are is because they both beat Notre Dame, and the people know that Notre Dame is a damn good team.
Well,
so they gave them all these high rankings because they beat them, because they didn't really beat too many other good teams like Notre Dame.
And here's the other thing with A&M versus Arkansas. Who has an undefeated record against Texas A&M as Arkansas coach? That would be Bobby Petrino.
Well, Petrino's a very good coach. I mean, he could fit into Penn State easily.
I don't think Penn State could sell Petrino to the boosters. Now, the problem is that if you're an Arkansas fan, and which I get some Arkansas folks that watch the podcast from time to time, if I am an Arkansas fan, you just want them to lose and get to basketball season, because you do not want them to hire Bobby Petrino.
Why? You know, why would they not like that guy? All he does is win.
The thing with Petrino is that he completely messed the program up for you in when he got fired.
At Arkansas.
Yes, and Bobby is 64 years old. And I'm not trying to do the whole age thing. I know Signetti's 64, but the difference between Signetti is that Kirk has it rolling. Signetti has it rolling, and
well, you know what happened with him is that unbelievably he was able to get like, what did he get? Like 50 transfers his first year in, and they worked out. And that doesn't usually happen.
The thing that Signetti did is he pretty much robbed everybody that could play at the Power 4 level off of his JMU roster, and he still had holes on the Indiana roster. But the thing that Signetti did that was relatively smart is Indiana seen that he was winning and winning big, so they have made the full-time investment in football, which is smart, and they're going to give him resources to compete because Indiana is seeing how much money they're making off a sold-out stadium, and it's just that. But there's kind of where that's at. I think if I'm Arkansas, I try to go out and hire a guy like John Summerall. I try to hire, but I don't think they're going to get Summerall. I think he's going to wait.
Well, where is Solich these days? He was a good name. He was a good coach when he was, in college. Is he still here?
No, Solich retired. He was at Ohio for years and pumped out NFL guys. But see, he took the Ohio job being in the MAC. The expectations relatively low, but I think they were trying to push him out at the end. Kind of like what Purdue did to Joe Tiller, which pretty much wrecked their program.
Right.
But also, we got Ole Miss, Georgia, which I'm streaming that live. I think that's going to be a fascinating game.
I think Ole Miss might be able to pull that off.
If they can throw the ball down the field and stop Georgia and make Gunnar Stockton beat them by throwing the football, I think Ole Miss got a good a chance as anybody. Now, I get it. I think what has happened since the transfer portal, I think this is one thing that people do with teams. I think that they see the logo on the helmet and they just automatically assume wins. Lane Kiffin's like 27-5 in his last 30. And I think 2 of those losses are to Saban's Alabama. So Kiffin don't lose many games.
Yeah.
So
he's funny, isn't he?
Oh, I think Lane Kiffin's phenomenal, and he's going to get a hell of a raise too. The Ole Miss leaked that because the Florida people keep on trying to pump up that they're trying to come after Kiffin. I mean, they can throw the Brinks truck at him, but if you watch the many faces of Lane Kiffin, I don't think Kiffin leaves. Why would you want to go to Florida that has done nothing but been terrible to their coaches? Ever since Urban Meyer left, he had the health issue, whether you can believe that or not, but I don't think I'm buying it with $1.
I don't know. I think he gets so thoroughly invested. Like he's 120% over most other coaches when it comes to giving it your all, like he went insane. Like that was his thing. And I think he burned out from it.
And I think
his health issues were real just because of that.
I think
like he just put too much into it.
I think that some of it was real, but I also think he's an egomaniac that couldn't take getting fired.
Oh, for sure.
So I think it's maybe a little of both, but I lean one way more than the other. Now, but ever since Urban, they had Ron Zook there. Ron Zook was a hell of a recruiter, but just couldn't win. Zook got fired.
But the stress level, Duke, let me stop you for a second. The stress level today is not really as bad as, like when Urban was at Florida, these coaches' salaries weren't even $1 million, like if they were $1.5 million at the most for the best coaches, so the stress level was a lot more then, because now you're getting guys getting 10 million a year. Their stress level has gone down just because of that fact. Like if they get fired, or just like Franklin, it's like, hey, here's what happened. The team quit on me, and I pretty much gave it up too. By losing to Northwestern, you pretty much knew he knew the writing on the wall and was ready to head out. But my point is, like, even today's coaches, they're all 10 million a year, the really good ones. And so the stress level isn't nearly, a financial issue where as it used to be. You lose your job, if Urban Meyer doesn't win in Florida and gets fired, that's a financial stress for him and his family. But nowadays it's like, yeah, he's going to make 15. If he comes back to coaching, he'd make 15 million a year,
I agree with you to a certain extent. I think when it comes down to the Florida thing, they fired Jim McElwain, went to 2 SEC championships. They fired Dan Mullen. He was 34-15, and they fired him midway through the year. I think that.
Yeah, but 34-15, that's basically going 10-5 type, winning at 667%. That's not great for the SEC. That's not great.
No, but if you look at Billy, he's right at 500. I think he's like 20-21.
Who?
Billy Napier.
Oh, okay.
And they leaked the meeting. They've done everything that they could to possibly to get the team to quit, because I heard some stuff that was just chatter on the internet that they're going to fire him whether he wins or loses Sunday. And it's just like, well, what kind of message are you sending? Because the entire roster is going to jump in the portal as soon as they know he's fired.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're, what does that say to recruits? I mean, they're going to fire this guy whether he wins or loses. I mean, forget it. Why am I going to take a risk on somebody we don't even know who they got yet?
And think of it this way. Look at what Penn State's recruiting class was. They were like, I think they were, 11 or 12. They're like 22nd now because their top kids have all decommitted. They're opening their recruiting back up. And
that was one thing Franklin was really good at, was recruiting. And no matter he couldn't win the big game, whatever, he always was around the top 5.
Yeah,
in recruiting.
Penn State was always in the mix in recruiting, and I think that's something that has got to be looked at. And it's hard to sell Happy Valley. I always go back to that. It's hard to sell it. And then also another game that I think is going to be fascinating is Tennessee, Alabama.
Yeah.
I
think Tennessee's a poser, kind of like Miami. I won't say Texas A&M, because I think if Miami were to play Texas A&M, who do you think would win?
I think Miami would be favored by a field goal if they played on a neutral site. I think Miami would be favored by a field goal, but I think if it was at Texas A&M, I think Miami would be a dog.
I tell you, that game with Notre Dame, first game of the year, first start for CJ Carr in the rain, playing Miami, at Miami. And, if that guy at the end of the half doesn't make that crazy catch that he would never make in the next 9 tries, he makes that catch. If he doesn't make that, Notre Dame wins 24-20.
Right.
So, it's like, I just don't see Miami. I know their offensive line thrashed Notre Dame's defensive line, but then again, they only had Rubio, and he still didn't know what he was doing yet. Now he's out for the game with USC, and I'm picking Notre Dame to lose.
You think Notre Dame loses to USC?
Because of Rubio. It's going to be raining, and they have a guy, Donovan Heinisch, that's small. He's undersized, and they're just going to push him backwards. In the rain, he's not going to have any footing. He's already small. I think USC's offensive line is good, that they're not really getting a lot of credit for yet. And I think that they're going to just be able to push Notre Dame. And then I also think that it's going to be looking at Lincoln Riley versus Chris Ash. And I think Lincoln Riley saw Well, Carson Beck had the perfect game plan for beating Notre Dame, which was those short dink and dunks, quick outs to the side, and don't give anybody enough time to be able to react. Like just dink and dunk all the way downfield, and then mix in the run nicely. And I think Michigan had that same thing. Lincoln Riley did that to Michigan. And so I think Lincoln Riley is going to look at that and say, Miami did this to Notre Dame, and they went right down the field, little dinks and dunks, wore them down, and Notre Dame came back at the end. But, like I think that's going to be a similar game plan for Lincoln Riley to go against Chris Ash's defenses, to do those little dink and dunks, balanced run game in there. And then in the second half, start throwing the ball like 20 plus yards a little bit more. And that's why I think they're going to be able to pull it off, because Notre Dame missing Rubio is huge on the defense. They have nobody else, really.
I agree with you on that. I think the one thing that betting on this game, I think it comes down to the last couple years that USC under Lincoln Riley that's came to South Bend in mid-October, they look cold.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to play a factor, because if it rains on Saturday night, which I think it's going to.
Well, Notre Dame also had a lot more depth than USC had in those previous years, except for their Heisman winner, playing unbelievable, playing his best game of the year against Notre Dame, and they beat them, But other than that, I think Notre Dame under Freeman has been getting depth at positions. And they do have depth at the defensive line, but they haven't played yet. Their guys are good. They just haven't seen the field yet, because they haven't had a chance to let them, because it's been porous. Like, teams have been running on them. And
I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough for Notre Dame. If Notre Dame can come out and run the football, I think USC's in trouble.
Yeah, if that's true, I agree with that.
They gotta stop Price and Love, and I think CJ Carr
at the
throws
same time, Notre Dame has to stop Mayava, and
Yeah.
he showed last year that he can shred Notre Dame, who had a great defense last year and gave up a lot of yards and a lot of points. He had the 2 big interceptions, 2 pick sixes, but then again, he scored 35 points on Notre Dame's great defense. So I don't know. It's going to be. I don't think they can do it. I really don't think Notre Dame has it for this week.
I think Notre Dame has a chance.
Plus, Notre Dame lost their center.
Yeah.
Notre Dame won't have their center either.
I think just because it's in South Bend now, if this was on the road at the Coliseum, yeah, I would totally agree with you that USC has the distinct advantage. But also on this other game, I think it's going to be really fascinating, is Missouri-Auburn.
Yes, that's another good one.
Because
I think Auburn's better than people think, but they just haven't been getting good. They got terrible officiating. And I think officiating is crucial in these, and they suck. The officials suck in the college level. They suck.
That was something that I was going to bring up, even though that you brought it up on tonight's show. The officiating the last couple weeks, I don't care the conference. It's been bad in the Big 12. It's been bad in the SEC. It's been bad in the Big 10. And it blows me away that these gambling companies are spending advertising dollars with these schools, and we can't get a accurate injury report.
Right. Or not only an injury report, but with all this money being thrown around, get some professionals. Get the NFL officials. I mean, they're not much better, but they're better, and start using them for college games. And so it won't be this home cooking by conference. Because if you ask me, when Penn State joined, they got shit on by the Big Ten refs because they love their darlings and they know where their bread is buttered. It's Michigan and Ohio State. And they would give the calls to those guys early enough to defeat the morale of these challenging teams that are lesser. And then all of a sudden, when the game's out of reach, all of a sudden they have all these dash of calls to kind of even up on the box score. what the penalty yards are.
Do you,
But in the meantime, they crush their morale in the early part of it. Just
you know
they're darling. They know where their bread is buttered, and I don't care what anybody says because being a Notre Dame fan, uh, to me, I've been seeing biased big conference refs, you know, giving their conference the better calls, for my whole life, basically. And so because Notre Dame's an independent, they don't have a conference home cooking kind of a referees. Like once in a while, you see the ACC like make horrible calls because Notre Dame's the better team, so they're just going to give them the game. And really, that's how it's gone in my years.
well, the one thing I'll say is you have to look at where these officials come from. And I hate to say it, but the Auburn game, especially with the touchdown at the goal line, I don't know how you make that call, but I streamed that game live from the 2 minute.
I was outraged. I was laughing. It was just so ridiculous. It should have been 17-0. It winds up 10-3, and Georgia gets the ball at their own 1 with like a minute left in the half. And the refs stopped the game, including a targeting call where they kicked Auburn's best defensive back out of the game during that drive with no timeouts, at their own 1. And they got 5 stops by the refs to call time, like for penalties or whatnot. And it gave them a chance to, make their plays.
And here's the crazy thing is that they went to the 2 minute timeout at like 9:02. Halftime, it took 35 minutes to play a minute 50 of football because of all the stoppages.
Right.
And one thing I will say, ABC needs to get figured out. This is just my only complaint. A half of football in the NFL takes an hour and 10 minutes. I streamed the Ole Miss Kentucky game was 2 hours and 40 minutes for one half of football.
Yeah. They go crazy on targeting.
And I think that, and to get back on the Auburn thing, there's been a lot of grumblings. I've heard people talking that Hugh Freeze is going to get fired if he loses. I think this is a golden lesson to some of these schools that are making changes midweek or mid-year. Careful what you wish for. You're going to see your recruiting class fall apart, and anybody who is good is probably going to put as much tape out there, or they're going to opt out and not play the rest of the year. So,
right.
So I think if Florida fires Billy Napier, and I think if Auburn fires Hugh Freeze, you just might as well chalk them up as not winning another game throughout the year. I think those will.
Well, that's also another reason that these colleges have to get together, and with this chaos of NIL and paying people, to play for your college, you're going to have to hold off on payments if these guys only come for a year. Like you can't be able to just jump to every different team going for the money, because most of these kids, they're smart. I mean, most of them aren't going to be able to make NFL careers. So they're taking the money while they can in college and jumping to each school that'll pay them the most while they can get it. So they have to come up with a way to stop that from happening, where there's too many kids that leave after every semester,
And I think going down to one transfer portal and it being only 15 days or whatever, that will solve a lot of that, because you can't really get in a visit, and it'll only affect the two teams going in the finals.
Right.
I think that fixing that on the transfer portal end of it, I think that it was Penn State's situation is such an unfortunate one. And I'm not trying to defend James Franklin. I think he's had 12 years and one Big Ten title. It makes it tough. But the one thing I will say is that this team is going to be a total complete corpse. And look at all the revenue that you're going to lose, because they're not going to be competitive going down the stretch. They're not going to be competitive. And I don't know if Penn State wins another game. going forward.
Yeah.
So I think that's one angle of it. They may not win another game because I will get their schedule up and we'll just take a look at it really quick while I got you here, and then we'll get everybody out of here and we'll close her up. But it's one of those things that, I mean, Penn State, the UCLA loss is one thing. The Oregon loss in overtime, tough. Then they lose to Northwestern. They have to go to Iowa, Kinnick Stadium at night. They have to play Ohio State, Indiana, Michigan State, Nebraska, Rutgers. And I don't see where they win. No Drew Aller.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, if you look at Missouri right now, Missouri is cooking with Bo Perbula. I don't see another win on that schedule. Maybe Rutgers, maybe Michigan State. I mean, it's not going well up there for Jonathan Smith, but I think Michigan State has a ton of NIL issues. I don't think they've got the resources that they're committing to football like they should be to be competitive. But they want big time results, but they're not being competitive when it comes to.
Yeah, well, again, that's a state school, you know, and that's, you know, so it's hard to kind of blame them for, you know, what their boosters are able to drum up for them. I don't know. I feel sorry for Michigan State. They were once a very proud football team, you know.
Well, the whole Mel Tucker thing happened when he got fired. You have the Mel Tucker thing. Mark D'Antonio retired, and Michigan State always took the kids that Michigan and Ohio State didn't want, and they turned it around. They developed their players. That's one thing that Michigan State always did. They always, you know, for the years that they were really good, they always had an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, that's right.
Kirk
So
Cousins,
did Purdue.
Connor Cook.
Yeah.
They had great pros, so that's kind of where it's at. And then the last game that I'm really fascinated with, this will be the last one. It will be, hold on, let me get to it. I got to get it pulled up. I think that coming into this game, it's going to be fascinating. BYU Utah.
Yes, for sure. The Holy War?
Yes, because Utah got robbed last year of this win.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So I think that's kind of where
I think BYU's another poser, you know, if you ask me. They're along the same lines of posers that are out there. But like, this is going to be like we said right off the top, you know, it's going to be, this weekend is going to determine a lot of things.
Right, because I think the team that would have the most cause to worry this week, I think, is
well, Notre Dame's out if they lose. Notre Dame's out. 3 losses, forget it.
Notre Dame is out. And then if Vanderbilt wins at home, we have to seriously talk about Vanderbilt being a playoff team.
Absolutely. Bobby is killer.
I think that LSU is on life support. Even though they have one loss, I think Nussmeier is hurt.
I think Nussmeier's hating the fact that, you know, he has BK for a head coach. I really do. The guy gets scrutinized, yelled at, picked apart, you know, right on the sidelines. You know, I wouldn't want that. If I was as talented as him, I'd say, you know what, F you. I'm going to the pros. You're going to be stuck here losing the big games.
I think that the one thing that if BK drops,
Nussmeier will probably be a 4th round pick at the best. You know, I don't think he's going to be much higher than that.
I think he hurt his draft stock this year, but I also don't think he's healthy. The guy that is going to crush it, and I heard this from a former coach on a different program, is Lenora Sellers' draft stock is going to be through the roof because he's going to kill the underwear Olympics. I don't. Now that I think about it, I think that's going to be fascinating because Sellers is going to run really well. He's going to throw really well, but it ain't got nothing to do with, strapping it up and playing. Also, another coach that got fired was Trent Dilfer at UAB.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of like Trent Dilfer, the former quarterback. Yeah, the former Ravens Super Bowl winning quarterback. He got fired. I think that if UAB would have done it right and hired Brian Vincent, the guy at Louisiana Monroe, and gave that job to Brian Vincent, I think UAB would have been they would be in a better spot than what they are. There's crowd shots of what their crowd looks like. Before games, and there's like 50 people there.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a newer stadium. It's nice, and people just don't go. But you should have seen it.
Well, one thought I'll leave you with, and then you can move on. But what do you think about Alex Golish fitting into Penn State? I've been praising him all year and since last year because I saw him like take apart another team that was good last year, and so I've been kind of touting him, and now I'm hearing a lot of other people talking about him, but I was on his bandwagon very early on, like last year. So I'm thinking he'd be nice for Penn State, but
he's also one of the things that would help him is that I'm sure he's got good relationships in Florida.
Yeah,
Golish to me would be a good fit, I think, for Penn State. Just for the simple fact of is he's from Ohio. He's a Midwest guy. He understands how it works.
Right. He doesn't have an ego. He doesn't have an ego yet.
I think the thing with him is that whenever the Penn State people get up in arms, but the thing of it is you got to look they put all their eggs in this basket this year with Aller, Singleton coming back, Katron Allen, also the other running back coming back. I think that, Penn State and Drew Aller snapped his ankle. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting going forward. But look forward to watching the games this week. And I appreciate the call, Joe, since
it's always a pleasure, Duke. I love talking football, college football with you.
Yeah. I will talk to you later, and also we'll be live during all the big games on Saturday as well, Joe. So if you're not doing anything, drop on in.
Well, my problem with that is that because I tape all these games, I have like three. I'm on the West Coast, so I have like 3 9 a.m. games, which is 12 your time.
Oh.
And then 3:30 for me is 12:30. I have another 3 games I tape. And I like to watch them in order so I don't know what the scores are. Like instead of just picking the best games to watch first, I go in order. So whatever the 9 o'clock game is, I have to try and catch up with all 3. So by the time your show comes on, I'm still like four games into, I still have 4 games to watch before the 4:30, which is the 7:30 time for you guys. You know what I mean?
I didn't realize you were on the West Coast.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been out here more than half my life now.
Oh, gotcha. Well, it was good hearing from you, Joe. I will talk to you later. Also, we got I took Louisville in the points tonight, so we're hoping for a Cardinal cover.
Yeah, I am too. I'm hoping actually Louisville wins that because I just don't believe in Miami yet. They haven't, except for Notre Dame. I don't think they've proven much to people. They've just been better, and I don't know. We'll see how it all shakes out.
We'll see what Miami does as far as handling adversity being down. If they come back and they win by 2 scores, I was wrong, but we'll see.
Right. Exactly. All right, bud.
Yep.
Take care.
Yep. Later, Joe. That was Joe. He calls in regularly. But also, the phone line is open, 260-255-4069. If you want to get your call in now. Probably shut the show down here soon while we got that going. So there is that. But yeah, Miami down 4 to Louisville. I think Miami can afford to take a loss. I know they don't want one. But yeah, I definitely think that going forward, if Vandy beats LSU, LSU is on life support. I don't believe the Weeks kid, I believe, is going to be a game time decision. As we were going through the games, excuse me. I think Vanderbilt, if they win this week, they're a serious college football playoff contender. I mean, I know they got Texas, but I think 10-2 Vandy, looking at the schedule, I don't see how it's not doable. But yeah, Ohio State taking on Wisconsin. That I think that's going to be a slaughter. I think Michigan State, Ohio State is going to be a slaughter as well. I think when it comes to it, I think Ole Miss has a puncher's chance. I think the Rebs can do some damage in Athens. Oregon going on the road at a weird time. They got a 6:30 kickoff with Oregon on Big Ten Network. I think that'll be sleepy. Maybe the people from Piscataway will show up. I don't know. It'll be fascinating to me. Texas on the road at Kentucky. I think that'll be a interesting deal there. Tennessee, Alabama on the road at Tuscaloosa is not going to be fun. So there is that. But anyway, I guess we'll fold up the show and we'll get everybody out of here. But hit that like and subscribe button, and we will talk to everybody Saturday morning. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys later.